Hello and welcome, I'm Ben from Digi Technical Support. In this video I'm going to show you how to configure a Wireguard VPN between an Android client and the TX64 router running Digi Accelerated Linux. Once you've seen how the process works with an Android phone, you should be able to replicate this on an iPhone or even a Windows PC client. The options for configuration are mostly going to be the same, and you should easily be able to work out which options go where on the client side. Before you get started on the configuration, you need to decide on an IP addressing scheme between the DAL router and the client device that's going to be connecting in. It's also handy if you can open up a shared document that's accessible between the device you're using to configure the DAL router. So for example, on my Windows PC, I've got access to this document in Google Docs. I've just called Wireguard, and I'm also going to be able to access this document from the Android phone as well, so I can transfer information quickly between the two. You can see the IP address scheme I've decided on. I'm going to have the 192.168.60/30 network in use. I'm going to have the .1 host address assigned to the TX64 and the .2 address assigned to the Android client. So moving on now to the configuration. The first step in the configuration is to create a new firewall zone for the Wireguard VPN. So we go into Zones and create a zone called Wireguard. I'll pop on there Wireguard VPN so it's clear for anybody else that sees it. I just need to make sure that source NAT is disabled. Moving on now to the VPN configuration. I'm coming into VPN, Wireguard, add a new VPN configuration. I'm just going to call it Wireguard WG0. The first thing to do here is to enable the device managed private key, and this is going to create a key pair on the TX64 side of things that we can then use the public key and send that over to the Android client. So I'm just going to click on apply, and then we need to try and get this public key from the device. Now you can go into status and then Wireguard, and the public key should be displayed here. If it doesn't, like it does on mine, that's due to a bug. But you can go to System, Terminal, log in using your regular credentials on here, access the admin CLI and type in show Wireguard, name, give it the name of the Wireguard VPN we've just created, which is WG0, type in verbose, and you can see there it gives you the public key, and this is the key we need to copy into the Wireguard document. Now this is a shared document on my Google Drive, and this is the TX64 public key, so I'm going to paste that in there. Moving back to the TX64 configuration now, and come back into the Wireguard configuration and go into the peer configuration now. I'm going to add a peer, and I'm going to call this Android 51820. The default port for Wireguard VPNs is port number 51820, as you can just see a bit further down, but it's just there as a handy reminder to say it's running on this port. The public key we have here is the public key that's going to be generated on the Android device, and I'll show you that in a moment. And we're also going to enable pre-shared key authentication as an extra layer of security. I'm not going to be using device managed keys. I'm going to use the Android configuration to create the pre-shared key on the client side. So let's start having a look at the Android side of things. You can see here I'm starting with the Wireguard document from the shared Google Drive document. You can see there I've installed the Wireguard app. I'm going to open that, and to give you more information about it, that's the version that I'm using. You can see there at the top. I'm going to go into the plus symbol and create a new VPN from scratch. I'm going to call it TX64. There's a generate symbol there which will create a private key and associated public key. Press on the generate. You can see there it's created a key pair. Now I need to take that public key by tapping on it and going into the shared document. I'm going to paste that in there. Let's just save that for a moment and come back into the configuration screen. Now the address is going to be the 192.168.6.2 and we're going to give this a 30-bit mask. The DNS server will be 8.8.8.8. I'm just going to use an external DNS server for what I'm doing here. It's absolutely fine. This is the peer configuration now. This is the TX64 side of things. So I need to get the public key from the document, copy that, and enter that in there. Now there's a pre-shared key there that's optional. I am going to be using a pre-shared key, but we don't have one created at the moment. So I'm going to come back over to the web browser on the PC, into this website, which creates a base 64 string, which is what's needed for the pre-shared key. I'm going to click on generate a few times, copy that. Just make sure that your length is set to 32. That's the required length in DAL. Back over to the pre-shared key section in the document and paste that in. I can now come to the same document on the phone and copy that. Drop that into the pre-shared key. I'll just save that because the screen has gone black because I'm entering secure information. If I come back and press edit, you can see that pre-shared key is now hidden. That's fine, we've pasted it in from the document. The endpoint is the IP address of the TX64 WAN interface, and put in a :51820 to put the port number in there as well. The allowed IPs is also going to be all relevant IPs can traverse this VPN, and I'm going to save that. So you can see there it's successfully saved. Moving back to the TX64 configuration now, I'm going to come back into the interface. The pre-shared key I need to grab from the document. Copy that. Pre-shared key gets inserted there. We'll just view it, make sure it's the same one, which is that one. Allowed addresses will be all 0/0. The public key, this is going to be the public key on the Android side. So I need to come up here, grab the public key that we dropped into the document, and paste that in there. And that's the VPN part of the configuration done. So let's apply that and move on to the next section. The next thing we need to do is add an interface. So we go into Network, Interfaces, add an interface, and I'm going to call this Wireguard_int for Wireguard interface. And this is the IP addressing side of the configuration. So the zone is going to be Wireguard VPN, that's the zone I set up earlier, and the device will be the Wireguard tunnel that we set up in the previous step, Wireguard 0. Going into the IP addressing, it's a static IP address, and the address we're going to be using is 192.168.61/30. Moving on now to the firewall. We configured the zone earlier, which is there, Wireguard VPN. The next thing that I need to do is add a packet filtering rule to allow traffic over this VPN. So I can add a new packet filter. I'm going to call this allow Wireguard to all. The source zone will be Wireguard, and the destination will be any. So this is going to allow anything that's coming from my Android phone over the VPN to access the internal network, to access any device I've got on the DMZ, and also have traffic going outbound on the external WAN interface. I'd also like to make sure I can access the TX64 web interface and do any web administration and SSH tasks from my Android phone over the VPN as well, in case I need to alter any of the TX64 configuration while I'm out and about. So I'm going to go into Services, Web Administration, into the Access Control list, into the zones, add another zone, and add in the Wireguard VPN. I'm going to do the same for SSH to make sure I can SSH into the TX64 as well. Let's apply that and that should be the configuration complete. Now I'm going to switch off the Wi-Fi on the Android phone. You can see at the top it's got a 4G connection. There's two SIMs in there. One of these doesn't allow VPNs, the other one does. I'm going to enable the VPN, and if I tap on it, you can see at the bottom data being transmitted and received, and there's a handshake option there as well. If you're only seeing data transmitted but not received, something's wrong. That's a really good status indicator for you to be able to check that everything is working as it should be. I'm going to do the same on the TX64. Go to status Wireguard, and we can see here there are packets sent and received and bytes sent and received. And now it's showing the public key that it wasn't showing before. But hey, don't worry about that. We got to it using a different method. I'm going to go back onto the Android phone, bring up a web browser, and go to whatismyipaddress.com and just confirm that the IP address that's being shown to me is in fact my TX64's WAN IP address. It's not going out on a mobile network and showing that IP address. So that proves that the traffic is coming over the VPN and then going out on the TX64's WAN interface. And that brings us to the end of this demo. I hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching. For more information on this or any other feature of your Digi device, please see the support pages at digi.com/support.